Hey, buddies, Agioni. It's your boy, African King Darius. So, right now, just received a very bit of very good news that I feel is the turning tides for the things involved in my life, in the life of my kids and my wife. So, I'm not going to release what that is because, again, as you guys know, a lot of what I study and stuff like that, I do put out to the public for the public to hear and see. So that way they can get the true knowledge of what we really need to know, what we should know. At the end of the day, I am an African king.
I am an African king.
So, Hajambo, that is, how are you? So, with that said, I would like to know, Hajambo, how are all of you doing today? So, listen. Today, I wanted to talk about being realistic with our intentions and our feelings. We live in a society today where sometimes our intentions are only motivated by what we see others do. Our intentions and our attitude of who we are is a product and creation of what we see other people do around us. I know many of you probably remember back when you were in school and how you had the different social classes in the school. There were the jocks, all of the ones who were very good at sports. You had the ones who were nothing but backups to the jocks. In other words, they were still jocks, but they might as well have been jock straps. Because pretty much they just weren't as good as the jocks. But they were still on the team, so everybody respected them as if they were jocks. Then you had the preppies. All the ones who wore the really nice clothes that were super proper with the way they spoke. And they always looked like the white people that lived all the way up on the richest hill of the mountain. They were the ones who the lowest amount of money their parents made was $1 million. And they thought that was just wipe your butt money.
Wipe your butt money.
Then you had the goths. Those are the ones who wore all black or wore black and green, who celebrated the darker side of life. Then you had then of course you had the geeks and the nerds. Now the geeks and the nerds were not the same. The geeks were the ones who everybody constantly asked to do their homework and stuff like that, and sometimes some of the jocks actually liked them. Then you had the nerds who were the ones who were picked on. They were treated wrong because they were inferior towards everybody else, but smart. Then you had, of course, the whites, and then of course you had the blacks. The blacks sat with the blacks and the whites sat with the whites. Either way, at the end of the day, as wrong as it was all wrong. I mean, all of it was wrong. Just wrong. Anyway, stop. there was always almost 10 of these different social groups within the educational system. Kumi, 10. So, since there were at least Kumi of these social groups existing in these schools, schools were segregated, namely just because of the social classes. Hold on. Shh. So, every single last group, even the jocks, were friends with this one social group that existed out of all of them that was higher than all the other social groups. The popular kids. They were the ones who parents spoiled them. They were the ones who were better than even the preppies. The preppies were basically their best friends. And everybody always wanted to be friends with the popular kids. The thing is, in order to be friends with the popular kids, sometimes the popular kids would force you to do things you normally wouldn't do. And there were those among us back in school when we saw these popular kids who would have went right ahead and said, hey, you know what? I want to be like the popular kids. So when we saw that the popular kids were sitting there and they ate chewing gum, knowing you don't actually eat chewing gum, you ate chewing gum because the popular kids did it. All of a sudden, you became a gum chewer and started acting like you were popular. And the popular kids saw it and said, oh, you must be popular. You started to take on characteristics of a person that you're not, just so you could fit in. When do we as society begin to realize that those type of attitudes and behaviors in which we use today as adults is still bad? You have adults today who will literally see what other adults are doing and all of a sudden want to do what those other adults are doing because they see those adults doing it. They all of a sudden want to be popular with those adults, so they copy off of them and try to be like them. All of a sudden, you can see that one group or one family might be a family that likes to always go swimming every Saturday. Or every third Saturday of a summer month. So let's say May, they go swimming the third week of May. June, they go swimming the third week of June. July, they go swimming the third week of July. August, they go swimming the third week of August. And they do this all summer. All summer they do this. All of a sudden you see this family doing that. And, oh, because you want to fit in and you want that family to think you're cool, so you're going to do it. If these type of qualities were not acceptable with children, then why would it be acceptable with adults today? When do we as adults begin to mature and understand that those type of behaviors are considered one thing and one thing only? Childish. When those behaviors become a thing that you are doing as an adult, you are not being mature. And therefore, you should not be called an adult. You should be called exactly how you behave. A child. There are people 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old who are still doing immature things. You have 80-year-olds who are still wearing their pants off of their waist with the underwear showing, dressing like the young boys, and yet you 80 years old and can barely walk. There are people who are 65 years old still using colloquial language that the young boys use. You're 60 years old. Why are you trying to talk like them? There are people who are 75 years old today who still try to do these old tricks on these bikes and all these old stunts that these young boys do. Then when they get hurt, they wonder why it's taking them so long to heal. You have to do things that are age appropriate for you. There is nothing wrong with accepting that maybe in some way, shape, or form, you have what you have and somebody else has what they have. You can't always have what somebody else has. The Bible says, what God has for you is for you. If it was not meant for you, He would not give it to you. So many people want what they see other people have and become jealous. And they want to take what other people have, and all of a sudden they want to be like those other people and have what those other people have because they don't have it. That's childish. You shouldn't want what you see other people have. What somebody else has, God has meant for them and for their purpose for them. Just because you don't have it does not mean that God is not going to provide something of equal value to you. Maybe there's a reason as to why God chose not to give it to you. Maybe God chose not to give it to you because maybe in some way He felt like you couldn't handle it. I have seen with my own eyes exactly how childish adults can behave sometimes. I've seen how childish these adults can behave just because of jealousy, just because they're upset because things aren't going their way. Well, if things aren't going your way, keep it moving. Life is too short to continue to try to be jealous of what somebody else has. If you see Sarah down the street and Sarah down the street may be driving a Maserati, that doesn't mean you got to put your family in debt to get a Maserati. If you see Cousin Lou wearing a nice suit, that don't mean that you sit there and spend the mortgage money on getting you a brand new suit because Cousin Lou got it. Cousin Lou may have done the work that it takes to actually get that suit. You may not have done the work it takes to get that suit, so maybe that's the reason why God didn't provide that suit for you. So often we get so hung up on wanting to have what other people have. We become jealous. And instead of being content with what we have and thanking God for what we do have and realizing that God can take it away in the blink of an eye. Like that, God can take it all from you. He took it all from Job and left Job with nothing. Okay, that's all the biblical talk I can give you for right now.
Are you done?
No. I said that's all the biblical talk I can give you for right now. I'm not turning this into a sermon, nor am I intending on doing so. I just thought I would throw that big piece of information in there. Now, from a secular nature and a secular standpoint, how many times have any of you walked the streets or know a friend that for some odd reason has to pretend like they are interested in the things that those people do, but you know full well they're not? How many of you have thrown friends to the side all because, or stopped being friends with somebody all because they put up what we on the streets call a front? They were fronting. A front means when you pretend to be somebody that you're not. You put up a front. How many times have you seen it with your own eyes? One week, that person ain't interested into any of that stuff. They were that geeky person that liked the video games, like making robots, was interested in technology. All of a sudden, here comes a person that's popular, and this person asks them to do their homework. They get their homework done right, and the popular person all of a sudden says something nice about them. Oh, you're a pretty cool person. And they walk away. Next thing you know, oh, because that popular person said it, now all of a sudden they cool. They popular. They want to all of a sudden be cool and popular, even though they're not actually popular. But they pretend and front like they are. I'm going to tell you, on the streets, there's a terminology that us blacks would have to call that type of person. We called them one word: petty.
What?
That's what we called them. We called them petty. We said they were being petty. Petty is a terminology or Ebonics term that was created meant to mean that that person was doing something really stupid and childish. And I'm going to tell you, as a person who did live on these streets, I can actually say, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is exactly what females did to other petty females. See, and I said females, not black females, not white females, not Hispanic, khaki, not none of that. This is what females did to other females when they were being petty. If you were being petty to another female, you got the whole taste of all you had for dinner slapped back into your mouth. They would have slapped you. As a matter of fact, they'd have slapped the color off your skin. That's how hard they would have slapped you. They'd have slapped a different language into you. Next thing you know, you went from speaking English to speaking Japanese because how hard you got slapped. They slapped you so hard your mother didn't even recognize you. That's how hard they slapped you.
I have to go to class.
I've seen adults act like this and act like children. People who are over the age of 60, over the age of 70. Hell, I've seen people who are over the age of 80 act like this. And it's sad because then you ask yourself, what makes them think in the back of their minds that it's okay for them to be this immature? What makes them think in the back of their mind it's okay for them to act this childish? What makes them think that this type of behavior should be tolerated by anybody? You're a grown adult. Ask your age, not your shoe size. That's the terminology they created. And everybody's mother has always told them to do that. There's not one black person on this earth who can't say they had a mother, a grandmother, or a great-grandmother who told them, ask your age, not your shoe size. But it's so sad to see people battle today in this world for acceptance just because they don't accept themselves. If you are having a problem today with self-acceptance, that's on you. You should go to a therapist or go to whatever religion you worship and go get help. Seek a higher power then. But you need to get professional help. And yes, I call religions professionals because they have been doing their thing for some odd number of years. That makes them a professional in their religion. Go get some type of professional help because that help is needed. You can't do it on your own. Some can, some can't. I'm always referred to a lot of my life experiences. And you tell me if this does sound a little bit up some people's alley. Throughout my entire life, I've always been exposed to people's problems and situations they've been involved in without me necessarily even asking to be exposed to it. I was not even indirectly or directly involved in it. I just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I remember when I started dating my wife and I met her parents. I'm recalled to a situation that we were involved in, and names will not be said. I'm just going to acknowledge the situation. I was coming down to her parents' house because we lived that close to each other, and I'm leaving it at that. But I was coming down to visit her at her parents' house. We were supposed to go out that day, but of course, she could not go out that day because she had to clean up. So, I remember I was at the door, and when I was at the door, I knocked, of course, and she let me in. I gave her a hug and a kiss, and then I sat down on the couch, said hello to her mom and her dad, and I sat down on the couch. She was right there, and her father comes over to her, and, well, he wasn't there, her mom was, I'm sorry. He was just coming in from work about an hour after me. He was just coming in from work after I came down to the house. So I was already there when he came walking through the door. So I was sitting on the couch, and he came in, gave her a hug, and when he gave her a hug, he gave her this thing that me and her used to always do when we were dating, where I used to give her multiple kisses on the cheek. And I would just keep kissing her because she felt it funny. It was our way of showing our puppy love towards each other. So I would give her multiple kisses on her cheek. He saw me do this one day and thought that that would be something appropriate for him to do with his daughter. So she was right there, and when she was about to walk over to the couch, as he was coming over there towards her, he gives her a hug and starts giving her multiple kisses on the cheek. She has this uncomfortable look of displeasure on her face, and obviously he did not read that uncomfortable look. But she shows this uncomfortable look, and then she comes and sits down on the couch, and she said, am I the only one that felt like that was weird? And I told her, I said, that's the thing that I do with you. She said, I know. That's why I was weirded out about it. Because he knows that's what you and me do with each other. Now, that was a definition of petty. Because, again, you only did this as into thinking that it was appropriate for you to do. You only did this as in a way to try to fit in. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, what if the reason why you're not fitting in is not because you're not supposed to fit in? What if you're not called to that, or you're not supposed to be there? What if in some way God, or whichever deity you pray to, has called you to something else? Or to be the person they need you to be in a different way. We all know that as parents, we have a difficult time reading our children. One child can like us, the next child can hate us, and the next two kids can just be undecided. With children, it's like politics. You have your Republicans your Democrats, and then your independents. And your independents are just as bad as the conservatives. And of course, then you got the liberals. Now, now, so we have a hard time as parents sometimes circumnavigating the understanding of our children. Yes, that's hard to do. But sometimes there are things that our children do that is just loud and clear to us that what we're doing is inappropriate. But when do we accept that what we're doing is weird and inappropriate, and we just be okay with it and say, okay, I won't do that again? When do we develop that thing called respect? The problem about it is some people just don't have it. Some just don't. Some don't have it, never have it, and never will have it. Some were never born with it, and they just can't have it. The only thing they can do is talk about how others should have it for them. Now, I'm going to start to put in a little bit of education in here, because y'all know that's what I do. I adhere to true knowledge. So I'm going to throw a little bit of education in here. There are several psychological disabilities that are considered common disabilities, and they have common traits in them that everyday people have. Y'all know I'm about to go here. You right. Every single last person in some way, shape, or form suffers from narcissism. Every single last person. There's not one person on this earth who doesn't suffer from a bit of narcissism. In some way, shape, or form, all of us are narcissistic and have narcissistic tendencies. We are downright, to the very fiber of our beings, selfish people. And sometimes we only want what we believe is best, and only what we believe is best. We don't want what's best for others. We do things because we want acceptance, or we do things because we want people to like us. Now, I can only speak from my own personal experience. As being the person that was an outcast from his whole entire family, I spent many a day since the age of 10 years old trying to fit into my own family, trying to figure out where I stand. My mother, as much as she tried, trying to get me to be able to blend within my family was a hard thing to do. Because for me, it was difficult. My family just was not the quintessential family that honestly you asked yourself, well, I really want to hang out with them. We didn't necessarily have that bond. Even though we never had that bond, the one thing I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, my family did have, was an understanding of how everybody felt, except me. No one understood how I felt, because I kept my feelings to myself. But the point was, we still did have an understanding that if we did not agree, we just chose to disagree. That's what we lived by. Now, I know most people will be like, well, I live by that in my home too. Okay, more power to you. It doesn't make sense. 10 to 1, it actually does not make sense. But more power to you. What you do in your home is solely up to you. But I will say this. When you have to, as a family or as a person in your family, start to do petty childish things to gain your children's acceptance, or as a parent you have to do childish things to gain your child's acceptance, that's when you know you've lost your mind. And maybe you might want to go seek professional help, or in some way you might want to just stop and evaluate yourself, because these type of behaviors can lead to worse behaviors down the road. For example, being as we all suffer from a bit of narcissism, at the end of the day, we all have those tendencies that tend to be highly questionable. For example, narcissistic tendencies are classified as so. Hold on, let me get my reference. Show me articles on narcissistic tendencies.
Looking. Okay, I found this on the web for narcissistic tendencies.
One of my favorites. Okay. So, on one of my favorite sites I like to use Psychology Today. And one of the articles that I know I've read like 100 times, and I think this is exactly the one I've read. No. Okay. This one is different. No? Yeah, it's different. Okay. So this woman, her name is Susan Hautzler. She's a PhD. She has a PhD. Yeah, she has a PhD. She's definitely a doctor. So she writes, "Are you a narcissist? 6 sure signs of narcissism." Narcissistic folks who are fun, good at things, and appear in public to be compassionate and generous often look like they would be as desirable friends and even as marriage partners. They can be very enjoyable to hang out with. At the same time, are they also good partners when it comes to talking through differences of opinion? Now that's where I want to stop. So when you're dealing with people who suffer from narcissism, they tend to be one way one minute. They also suffer from another psychological disability known as bipolar disorder. It's when their moods swing and change at different intervals throughout the entire day. One minute, they could be happy-go-lucky with you, handing you high fives. Then exactly 1 minute and 50 seconds later, they mad for some odd reason. You just sat there with them, and for that entire time that you was with them, they showed no signs of being angry. But then all of a sudden now they are. They're just mad. Storming mad for some odd reason. But then you have to ask yourself, is this type of person a good person for you to be around? And is this type of person a good person to evaluate as what good tendencies do for people in this world? I'm going to be honest with you. No. And you're going to read in this article that is exactly the same thing that this person with this PhD said. They're not good people to have as friends. they're not good people to be around. Anybody that has any one of these 6 signs of narcissism are not people you want to associate yourself with. They need to be left in a dark corner somewhere to reflect on life, because they should not be around you. Their only goal is to drag you down and to better themselves. And sadly, we as human beings in society have a tendency to do this all the time. We always do kind things for others while masking that intent, that they don't realize those kind things in which we're doing is actually a way for us to completely hire ourselves up on the ladder of acceptance. Because we may give you $10, or we may see a guy walking down the street and give him a ride. Those things are good, but it's what you feel in your heart and what your heart actually is displaying that is the thing that matters. See, sometimes we can be fooled by people's intentions, and we can be fooled by the things that they do. They put on a nice smile. They shake your hand, give you a high five, give you a shoulder bump. And all the while, they're undercutting you behind your back, talking smack about you to your friends, trying to split up you and your girlfriend, or trying to ruin your marriage. Or they become unwelcome guests in your life whose only intentions is to continue to be around to only do one thing, to piss you off, and that's it. Then the question there is, when does that become problematic? At the same time, are they also good partners when it comes to talking through differences of opinion? We read that. Or is there something about how they communicate in a relationship that makes narcissistic folks provocative? Now, here it is. Ever tried to be friends or love a partner with, or tried to be friends or a love partner with someone who is all about me? Someone who only listens to him or herself? A partner who changes the topic, gets defensive, or gets mad at you when you try to talk about difficulties you've been experiencing? Now I'm going to stop right there. All of us as human beings, sometimes one way or another, don't care about what some people are saying. At some point, we hear what they're saying, but we really truly don't care. And what we do is we show something called common courtesy. It's called manners. But when does common courtesy get thrown to the side for true, honest intentions? People who have common courtesy, I love those type of people. But at the same time, some people aren't in your life for common courtesy. Some people are in your life because they want you to love and care about them. They don't want your common courtesy. They don't want your manners. They want true, unadulterated agape love. And you can't give that to them. So since you can't because you're narcissistic, you need to separate yourself from those people and keep moving on with your life. Sometimes we talk about our experiences in life, and we talk about the situations we've been through. And a lot of times, those people, the people we're talking to, don't even realize that, to tell the truth, by hearing everything that they're talking about, we're evaluating ourselves. And we're saying, okay, I don't care what this chick is saying, or what this dude is saying, or what this brother is saying. If this person would just shut up. Narcissistic functioning at core is a disorder of listening. Think of it as one-sided listening with multiple features that emerge as a result. Again, that's exactly what I said. It's one-sided listening. It's when you're hearing what the person is saying, but your mind is already made up that you already completely disagree with them. How many times have you heard a person's point of view and you say, but I'm just saying? When you say, but I'm just saying, then you're not listening to what they're saying. What you're doing is injecting your point over theirs and telling them no matter what they say out of their mouth, they're not going to change your opinion from what you believe. Because you're going to believe what you believe in without a shadow of a doubt. And there is no point in y'all carrying that conversation. So then I got one question. Why is your narcissistic behind even talking to that person? Stop talking to that person. Stop having a conversation with that person. And go stare in the mirror and talk to yourself. Because that's all you're doing. Because that's the only person you want to agree with you. Or rather, you want everybody to agree with you and everybody to see it from your point of view. Because you want to be accepted by everyone. Like she said, narcissism is a disorder of listening. It's one-sided listening. And I've had my fair share of experiences where people only listen to people's point from only one side and one side only. Now, here's the trick though. Okay? Here's the trick. And it's the reason why I want to get into child psychology. Here's the trick. The trick is we can actually mask our narcissistic tendencies and the things that make us a narcissism. We can mask them by, even though we know we don't care about their opinion, we'll go right ahead and do a thing of common courtesy and agree with them even though we don't actually agree. Now this is what I mean. You can say, yeah man, I was just telling Stephanie that she need to stop talking with Derek because Derek ain't no good for her. But you know how Stephanie's gonna be. Yeah man, I completely agree with you. Then as soon as he leave the room, I don't want to hear about that trick. I don't give a dang what's going on with her. Why he worried about her, man? Wait a minute. You were just on his side. How many times did I say already that he needs to stop worrying about her? That they need to stop talking about her. Okay. Wait. I'm confused. So you already accepted that your point matters over his. And that what you had to say superseded what he had to say and was far much more important than what he had to say. She goes on and she writes. The desire to sustain a friendship, never mind a love relationship, can quickly fade with someone who does not seem to see or hear you, who dismissively pushes away what you say, and who may be quick to anger if you attempt nothing less to express your viewpoint. Now, it truly is narcissistic when you are so quick to get angry just because a person stated their viewpoint. And there are several people in my life I can actually think of off of the top of my hand who are quick to get angry because all you did was state your viewpoint, and because your viewpoint did not line up with what they believe or what they say, oh, they don't care anyway. So they either do a thing where they may roll their eyes, or they do a thing where they'll turn their head to the side, or they may do something quirky where they might just lift their eyebrows and look away, or they may do something that they know for well is being seen as to dismiss what you're saying and how you feel, but they're going to do it anyway because to them, what they wanted and their viewpoint mattered over yours. That's narcissism. That's narcissism. The following quiz suggested 6 dimensions for assessing narcissism. Score each dimension from 0 to 5. 0 is not at all, 5 is all the time. First, assess yourself, then circle back to score someone in your life who is difficult to deal with. Okay, now, I'm going to do myself, and then I'm going to do somebody I know. I already know this person is narcissistic. Sign 1. Unilateral listening. What I would want and what I have to say are so, sign 1. Unilateral listening. What I want and what I have to say are all that matters when we talk together. When we make decisions, what you want, your concerns, your feelings, these are mere whispers, inconveniences, and irrelevancies. So when we discuss issues, my opinions are right, yours are wrong, or else of minor importance. If you expect to have input, you are undermining me. Now, I can think of 2 people that is exactly a 5 for. Sign number 1. For me, that's a 1. Okay? That's a 1. And I'm going to tell you why it's a 1. First of all, I love to hear other people's opinions. Because sometimes I use their opinions and I use the knowledge that they know to help impact my understanding of culture, life, and things that I'm currently going through in my life. Actually, I know 3 people that's a 5 for. Narcissistic listening dismisses, negates, ignores, minimizes, designates, or otherwise renders irrelevant other people's concerns and comments. A tone of contempt is particularly strong narcissistic indicator. Okay, so, as I said, so already the 3 people I'm thinking of, they already have a 5 for that. Another narcissistic indicator is responding to what others say by beginning with the word but. Oh, wow. Yeah, they say that all the time. They say that all the time. They definitely say but all the time. I mean, and as I always like to say, there ain't no but in it. You know, that's the one thing I always say. There ain't no but in it. You know, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. They do start it off with but, like all the time. There's no point in having a conversation with these 3 people because they will always say but. Now, 1 out of the 3, he doesn't actually say but. He doesn't say but. What he just does is he'll hear what you're saying and mumble under his breath how he really feels. And I've literally caught the end of what he was saying. My 2 princes over here, I'm giving them that knowledge. And they're adhering to it. So, but is a backspace delete key that negates whatever came before, such as what someone else has said. Now, I'm going to bring up an event. Like I said, names will not be mentioned. But I can bring up a lot of events that I was involved in. Okay? And I didn't mean to say but I'm going to say this. I'm not, why do I keep saying, see? Narcissism, right there. So then let me not say but. So, furthermore, way back on December the 25th, when me and my wife came to her parents' house to open up presents, that day, my wife was told on the telephone that there would be no discussion about the simple fact that she asked if she, which I don't understand why a grown woman needs to ask. And any of you can comment on my video and agree or disagree Should a grown woman have to ask her parents if she can spend Christmas or spend time with her spouse? Is that appropriate, especially when the person doesn't live with you? Should that person have to ask to be able to spend time with their spouse? In my honest opinion, I don't think that you should have to ask to spend time with your spouse. When you're a grown person, there is no asking involved about spending time with your spouse. You don't need to ask other grown people, can you do that? That's sad. Anyway, that day, we came down to open gifts. And there was a Christmas party that she normally goes to for her family, but this time she didn't want to go because me and her had just gotten married. Okay? We had just got married that August. And that December had just come up, and it was our very first Christmas together. They stated to her, there's no problem with that. We understand that. And left it at that. Are you coming down to open up the gifts? She said, sure. When we arrived to the house, she was opening up the gifts and we were about to leave. Her mother decided to ambush us with this statement. All right, let's address the elephant in the room. When she made that statement, that was already indicating that no matter what you said, how you feel, or what you believed, I'm going to bring this up anyway. Now, was that completely and utterly wrong to do if you already established over the telephone that this person's decision to not want to go was fine with you? Then you decide to change your mind because actually your actual intentions was to not say sure or say okay or be all right with it. Your actual intentions was to try to do whatever you could to disrupt that day. I gave my opinion that day and said, I think that was wrong because you did just tell her on the phone, and I was right there with her, that you said you weren't going to bring it up. That's dishonest that you're bringing it up right now. And in all actualities, that's just blatantly disrespectful. Blatantly disrespectful. Our father goes on to antagonize me and get upset about what I'm saying and demand an apology from me. But I said and stated, you guys have never had respect for me since day one. Since the day that I stepped into Bria's life, y'all been doing everything you could to try to run me off. And anybody with not even blind could have clearly seen that because there were family members of theirs who even agreed with me and said the exact same thing. There were people who was contacting my mother and saying, you need to be careful of the two of them. They can be a bit sneaky. There were literal family members of theirs who contacted my mother and told her, you need to tell your son to be careful. They can be a bit sneaky. This is their own family warning me that they're sneaky. So, of course, I did the honest thing that any person would do. If you don't want to talk about it, and no matter how badly you send to object your opinion and say, how can you really truly say, without a shadow of a doubt, that that was not a dishonest thing to do? And I made that statement several times. I said, that's not how you saying that's respectful when that's completely and utterly disrespectful to do. She don't even live at your house, and yet she can't even live her life. You want to take away from her the life she wants to live because you want her to be subservient to you. So I decided to go ahead and leave and make my way down there to my mother's house. My wife interjected and kept asking me to come back down to open up the gifts. I said, I don't want to do that because in my honest opinion, they're not going to apologize for what they said because what they did was wrong. Now, as I said, you can put in the comment box if you want and tell me if you believe that I was in the right in deciding to walk away. And should I have demanded an apology from the two of them, from the behavior in which they showed that day, even though clearly they did literally say they were not going to bring it up, and that if she said she didn't want to go, that's fine with them. Should I have had demanded an apology, and should I have been issued an apology? I want y'all to let me know. I've already asked other people, and I can tell you this now. These other people have already agreed with me and said, yeah, you should have been issued an apology. Because it is really dishonest to sit there and say to somebody, oh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hear your point of view. But my mind is already made up that my point of view matters over yours. If you're that narcissistic, something's wrong with you. You need to go seek professional help. And if that help can't work, you need to be medicated. Honestly. Sign number 2. It's all about me. I know more, know better, and am more interesting. Now, again, these 3 people that I'm talking about, they get another 5 in that category. Because they actually do only care about what's good for them and what's better for them. They mask their intentions of things that they're doing by saying that they're doing these things to help others as a way to actually completely place themselves up on a higher pedestal. They're not doing it out of kindness and out of serious generosity. They're doing it because they want to. They're doing it because, no, not because they want to, but because it's something in it for them. Okay? They gain something from it. All 3 of those people get a 5 in that category. They already at 10. And this one, I get about, I would say a 3. Because sometimes I do like to talk about my achievements. But the reason I do that now is because back in the past, I didn't talk about any of my achievements. If anything, I talked about how bad I was at stuff. I talked about how badly I sucked. I didn't see anything good in myself at all, period. If anything, I was a depressed person. I was 10-1. Either way, it's still narcissism. But I didn't see anything good in what I did. And either I talked bad about myself or I didn't talk at all. If you begin to talk about yourself, I link back to someone in my life so that the focus of the discussion again turns onto me. Maybe that's why people say I suck up all the air in the room. Yeah, that type of person, yeah. That's a 5 for all 3 of those people. Okay. Sign number 3. The rules don't apply to me. Damn. All 3 of those people get another 5. They're at 15. These 3 people are complete and utter asses and a completely utter narcissists because they get a 5 in that category. I can have affairs cut in a line where others are waiting, cheat on my taxes, and ignore rules that don't get in the way of me doing what I want. Rules are for other people to follow. Narcissists suffer from what I call tall man syndrome. They experience themselves as above others, so the rules don't apply to them. Yeah, all 3 of those people get a 5 in that category. And I can actually talk about several situations. I remember one that I was involved in where I had a conversation with my wife's parents, and I remember one of the things they told me about was the simple fact that when they were young teenagers, they snuck out their parents' house and had sex in the back of their car. Okay? I was told that. And then, oh, but when me and Bria, or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say my wife's name. Well, I've said it in other videos, so, but when me and my wife want to spend time with each other, that's wrong for us to do. Again, that's not narcissistic to you? That's a 5, bruh. Sign 4. Your concerns are really criticisms of me, and I hate being criticized. Okay. Narcissists, excuse me, paradoxically manifest both an inflated idea of their own importance and quickness to feel deflated by negative feedback. I will say, I've learned to take criticism, and again, so you don't think I'm being narcissistic. There's no one else in this room except for my children who can take this test. And I told you I'm grading the 3 other people that I know. For sign number 4, they got a 5. That's already 20. Sign number 5. I'm right, you're wrong, so when things go wrong between us, it's always your fault. Wow. I get a 3 in that one, and in the previous one, I get a 2 because I've learned to take criticism the right way. So, for sign number 1, I do like to listen, so I get a 1. For sign number 2, I am a bit narcissistic when it comes to talking about I am a bit narcissistic when it comes to talking about me, so I get like a 3 in that one. So that's already 4. The rules don't apply, I get a 1. Actually, I get a 0 in that one because I know the rules apply to me. And I make sure that they do. Sign number 4. Your concerns or criticisms of me, and I hate being criticized. That's a 2. So already, my numbers are 1, 2, 0, 2. So 1, 2, 0, 2. 1, 2, that's 3. 0, that's 3. 2, that's 5. Okay. I'm right, you're wrong. So when things go wrong between us, it's always your fault. I get a 2 in this one. So I'm already at 5. That's 7 now. I can't be expected to apologize or to admit blame. They get a 5 in that one. They get a 5. These 3 people never apologize. And so far, I can actually say, with things that I've been involved in with them, they have never actually apologized to me for a daggone thing they have said wrong, done wrong, or even had in their head that was wrong. I've never received not one daggone apology. It's really, really weird to me that through all the years that you've known me, that the only person who has been wrong in every situation involving me and these 3 people, that the only person that was wrong in every situation involving me and these 3 people was me. That's a bit weird. That's problematic. I mean, what the hell am I doing wrong? That I'm the only person wrong in every situation involving me and these 3 people. That's crazy. That's crazy. I shouldn't be the only person wrong. I think at some point in time, it literally is human error when we actually tell ourselves that one person is only wrong in that situation, and we know full well that we're wrong, because there ain't not one person on this earth that is blameless in any situation they ever been involved in. Not one person. Unless you're narcissistic. Because then you're going to blame it on your narcissism. But narcissism is a disorder that is literally a common trait to everybody. Let's continue. Sign number 6. I may be quick to anger, but when I get angry, it's because of you. I get a 1 in that one. When I get mad, I try not to get mad. I don't get mad. I get depressed. Okay? I get depressed. I don't get mad. I have other issues going on besides anger. I did used to have issues going on dealt with anger, but I got rid of them. I sought professional help, and I still am actually seeking professional help for some of the things I'm involved in with my life. And I have a actual therapist who helps me with that. So I get a 1. So I'm already at 8. Okay. You made me mad. You didn't listen to me. You criticized me. You're trying to control me. Your view is wrong. So you need to apologize, not me. If I'm mad, it's because I'm frustrated by what you are doing. I only made it because I'm only mad because you. Yeah. Now, so that's another 5 for all 3 of those people. Now, it says scores 10 or less indicates healthy to average range. Okay. A total score of 18 or higher spells significant narcissistic behaviors or narcissistic habits that probably do not serve you well. Time to make some serious habit changes. So if they got a 5 in all of those categories, that's definitely beyond 18. That is, if it's 6, that's 30. All 3 of these people got a 30. Got a 30 in total. Yeah. They got a 30. That's a sad shame. On this test, they got a 30. That's scary. That is scary. That is scary. I mean, that's like spooky. You don't get a 30 on the narcissistic test and not think and literally not think that there is a problem. But the problem about people who are narcissistic is that they feel that there is no problem with them. They feel that they are entitled to their beliefs and they're entitled to feel the way that they feel. And as they are, they should. But at the same time, when do you stop and think about other people's feelings and other people's concerns? Again, the world doesn't evolve around you. The world doesn't stop turning and life doesn't stop going on because of how you feel. The day goes on, life goes on, and at the end of the day, you're going to continue to go through what you're going through in life, and life is going to continue to take a downward spiral for you because the only person you see is right in your life is you, even if you're wrong. And we all do wrong to some people at some point in time in our lives. There is not one person on this earth who can say that they've done everything right by a person, because that's impossible. Because at some point in time, you got to stop and think about yourself. So I got an 8. A score of 24 or higher will indicate serious problems with narcissism. Hopefully you will commit yourself to some serious personal growth. Wow. That's... I'm going to put my wife through this test and see what she gets. And I'll put in the comments her score. Thank you for taking this time to listen.